All right, welcome to the explainer. So, you want to get more flexible, right? But what's the best way to actually do it? I mean, for your sport, for your daily life, or even just to feel a bit better. The advice out there is, let's be honest, a total mess. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise. We're diving deep into the science to find out what really, truly works. And let's make this real. Let's say you're looking for that higher, faster kick. It's a huge goal in martial arts, obviously, but also in dance and a ton of other sports. And that right there, that's the perfect example of what we're talking about today, functional flexibility. It's not just about, being able to touch your toes. It's about being able to use that flexibility with real power, with actual control. And frankly, that's where most of us hit a wall. Yeah, and hitting a wall, that's not even the worst of it. Get this. According to a 2015 German study, and that's our main source for this whole explainer, doing the wrong kind of stretching can lead to enormous deteriorations in your technique. Think about that for a second. It means that all that time you spend stretching, if you're doing it wrong, it isn't just a waste of time. It could actually be making you worse.
So this brings us right to what the study calls the kicker's dilemma. And really, this is a problem for anyone who's trying to get more active, more usable flexibility.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Do you stretch before you work out? After? Both? Do you hold it for 30 seconds? A minute? Do you bounce into the stretch? Is pain good? Is it bad? The advice is completely all over the map. And what's wild is that the study points out that even really high-level athletes are often just doing what they've always done, not what the science says works. And it's this exact confusion that a group of German researchers wanted to finally clear up.
So how'd they do it? Well, they basically set up a scientific showdown. They took all the most common stretching methods and threw them into the ring to see which one would come out on top for that real functional flexibility we're after. All right, let's meet our contenders.
Okay, first up, you've got static stretching. You know this one. It's the classic from gym class, right? You get into that position, you feel the pull, and you just hold it. That's it. It's simple, it's familiar, and it's probably the one most people think of when they hear the word stretch.
All right, next in the ring is dynamic stretching. Now, instead of just holding still, this is all about movement. Think leg swings, arm circles, that kind of thing. You're using controlled momentum to gently take your muscles through their full range of motion. It's all about prepping the body for action. And our third contender, this one's a little different. It's called crack stretching. And yeah, that's an acronym. It stands for contract, relax, antagonist, contract. It's a form of PNF, which I know sounds super technical. PNF just stands for proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Basically, it's a fancy way of saying you're using your own body's nervous system, your reflexes, to get a deeper stretch. This is what you might call the smart stretch.
So there you have it. 3 very different approaches. You've got the simple hold of static stretching, the swing of dynamic stretching, and the contraction stretch of CSRC. They all have the same goal, but which one actually gets you there? All right, now for the main event, the 8-week showdown. This is where the researchers put these methods to the test to see what really happens over the long haul. And we're not talking about a small little test here. They got 98 martial artists to participate. Now, these are people for whom a high, powerful kick isn't just a party trick, it's a critical skill. So they split them up into groups for each stretching method, plus a control group, and had them follow a strict program 3 times a week for a full 8 weeks.
Okay, so here's where it starts to get really interesting. The first thing they measured was passive flexibility. The basic stuff, like how far a partner can lift your leg up for you. And look at this. All 3 methods, static, dynamic, and CRAC, they all worked great. They all showed big improvements. So you might look at this and think, awesome, they all work, so it doesn't really matter which one I do. But hold on, that is definitely not the whole story.
Because this is a slide that changes everything. When they measured active dynamic flexibility, your ability to actually use that flexibility to power a high kick all on your own, the results were just, wow. Static and dynamic stretching, they gave some modest improvements, sure. But the CRAC method, it absolutely blew them out of the water. It wasn't even close. For functional, real-world performance, there was one clear winner.
Okay, so CRAC is the champ. We know that now. But why? What is it actually doing inside your body that makes it so much more effective? Let's get into the science behind it. So the method itself, it's a very specific 4-step dance. First, you go into your stretch, right to your limit. Then you actually contract the very muscle you're stretching, pushing against something for a few seconds. Step 2, you just relax. Let it go completely for a moment. Step 3 is the tricky part. You actively contract the muscle on the opposite side. So if you're stretching your hamstring, you tense up your quad, the muscle on the front of your thigh. And finally, step 4, you use that moment to ease into a deeper stretch. You'll be amazed at how much further you can go. Now, the reason this whole sequence works is because you're essentially outsmarting your own body. You're tricking its protective reflexes. That first step, when you contract the stretched muscle, that triggers something called autogenic inhibition. It basically tells your muscle's safety sensors, well, we're under a lot of tension here. We better relax a little bit so we don't get hurt. And poof, you get more range. Then, that second contraction, the one on the opposite muscle, that triggers something else called reciprocal inhibition. Your brain sends a message to the muscle you're trying to stretch that says, hey, the muscle on the other side is working now, so you need to chill out and get out of its way. It's like this 1-2 neurological punch that convinces your muscles to just let go. So the big takeaway here is pretty amazing, right? It's not about just yanking on a muscle until it gives. It's about working with your nervous system. It's all about stretching smarter, not just harder. So let's just boil this all down. What are the big things to remember? First, if you want that active, usable flexibility, the kind of stretching you do matters a lot. Second, the science is pretty clear. For that goal, CRAC is the way to go. Third, you gotta stop treating stretching like a warm-up or a cool-down. It needs to be its own dedicated workout. And finally, the ultimate combo is to stretch one muscle while you strengthen the muscle on the opposite side. Okay, but before you run off and try this tonight, we need to have a serious talk. A huge word of caution, and this comes straight from the researchers themselves. CRAC is not for messing around with. It is an intense, advanced technique. You need to have really good body awareness to do it right. The study itself even mentioned that some people got joint pain or just struggled to do it correctly. And if you do it wrong, you can seriously hurt yourself. So it is absolutely not recommended for beginners unless you have a qualified coach or a physical therapist guiding you. So at the end of the day, it's pretty clear, isn't it? Not all stretching is the same, not by a long shot. If you just want basic flexibility, yeah, most things will get you there eventually. But if you want real, functional flexibility, the kind that lets you perform, the kind that powers that high kick, the science points to a much smarter way of doing things. So now that you know the science, the only question left is, what are you going to do about it?